Apple's AI push could face hurdles in the company's second largest market. The New York Times says that the White House is looking into Apple's plans to make Alibaba AI technology available on iPhones in China. That report says that officials are concerned a partnership would help Alibaba gain ground in the AI race and strengthen Apple's ties to Chinese censorship and data sharing laws. Roughly 20% of Apple's sales come from China. You can see the stock is off this morning, but again, so are the rest of the big tech stocks as we watch Treasury yields rise today.
Meantime, joining us right now is a man who literally wrote a book, or maybe even the book, on Apple, though, in China. Patrick McGee is here. He's the author of the aptly named Apple in China. Captures the world's the capture of the world's greatest company. Good morning to you.
Morning.
It's a fascinating book. And I think I don't want to put the thesis out there. Let me ask if this is what you think you're saying.
Sure.
I think after reading this book that you are effectively suggesting that Apple is almost solely responsible or singularly responsible for the power that China now has on the global stage.
I think Apple
and
is
almost unwittingly.
Yes, they sleepwalked into a crisis. But I think the novel element of the book is that Apple inadvertently became the largest supporter of Made in China 2025. This is Xi Jinping's ambitious plan from more than a decade ago to make China self-sufficient in robotics, automation, and advanced electronics. Apple sort of realizes around 2015, 2016 that, whoops, we are actually the biggest supporter of this, and our spending is more than double the Marshall Plan, adjusted for inflation, each year in China. I should say our investment, not our spending. Our spending is actually double to triple that.
And so
double or triple the Marshall Plan every year.
Yeah, so $55 billion a year is what Apple is investing in China. Yeah. That's exclusively in other people's factories, right? There's no factory that has a Bit and Fruit logo in China outside. So it's wages, it's training costs, and it's machinery. So Apple would put billions upon billions of machinery, mount it in other people's factories, and then, of course, the thing is that they have to build 230 million iPhones a year. But what do you do with the equipment afterwards? What do you do with the skills afterwards? Well, you supply the same components, the same features to Huawei, Oppo, Vivo, Xiaomi. And so the result is that the Chinese smartphone brands have 55% global market share. And the reason their market share is so dominant, the reason their technology is so good, is Apple trained all of their suppliers.
So I'll just go back to the beginning, though. So Tim Cook decides he wants to leverage China. This is in what year?
2003 is really when they consolidate into China.
Okay. And thinks that there's an opportunity to effectively produce iPhones better, cheaper, all those things there.
Yes. iPods at the time, but yes.
Okay. Was there ever a moment, you think, during this period where there was an opportunity effectively to get out of China?
Many.
Because right now, there's a big question about just the sunk cost and whether you could ever manufacture these things in America, for example, at anything like a comparable price.
All the things Apple is pretending to do right now in India is something they should have been doing in 2012, 2013. So I have a few characters in the book who say we're way too deep into China. So this is Tony Fadell, 2008, 2009. This is John Ford, the de facto manager of Apple Retail in 2011, saying to Apple, you're going to have some nervous officials if you guys start building big plants outside of this country. And instead, Apple doubles down, they triple down, they begin massive share backs of their own shares. So you guys probably know, you're more into finance than me. Apple spends more than $100 billion on their own share backs a year. That's more than the top Wall Street banks combined. And if they were instead spending $50 billion a year on share buybacks and spending $50 billion a year building resiliency in the supply chain, especially over the last 10 years, they'd be in a better position.
But you also, if I understand it, argue that they can't, almost politically at this point,
correct,
inside of China, leave.
Yes.
Because so much of their sales and market in China is dependent on the Chinese government looking upon them favorably.
Yes. Apple has a $70 billion business in China. Okay, there are only 12 corporations, non-Chinese, in the world that have more than $10 billion of revenue. Apple easily tops the chart. Apple doesn't make more money than corporations. It makes more money than the entire industry.
Its market share has been sliding in China over the last 2 years pretty rapidly.
Because of the competition they built up there.
If they were to go and do this in India, what's to prevent the same situation from taking place, that they just end up training India's factories to do the same thing, to take up?
I would want them to do that. Now, beggars can't be choosers. I want India to remain an ally. I think you could actually use the Apple benefit to the country as a bargaining chip. But if you're saying, what if Narendra Modi takes India in a very authoritarian direction, that's a risk for sure.
Why is Donald Trump wrong then to say we want it built here instead of there?
Because we can't build here for so many reasons.
Because what are the reasons?
I mean, the density of population is one, but the other is just the dynamism, the flexibility of the population. So the thing that people don't understand about why China is so good at this is you have a floating population of more than 200, 300 million people in China who just do seasonal work going from one area to the other. So it's like someone said, it's like the city of Boston, 500,000 people gave up whatever they were doing just to work on iPhones. It's more than that. It's like the city of Boston, everyone sort of moving to Milwaukee in the spring and then moving to some other place.
They're playing the music out, but here's the question. If you could wave a magic wand today, given all the stuff that's happened, is there something that should happen beyond
I would love
India?
to see a massive acceleration of Apple moving to India, but you need the political air cover from Donald Trump and the administration to actually do that because China's not going to allow it. They have them over a barrel.